So hello fellow Earthlings. This is Earthling 6455463728. And I was listening to Sidney Poitier talk about the road on his path to becoming the actor that he is known to everybody to be. And it was amazing. I would never have guessed all of the different near misses that he went through. In fact, just to be alive, it really was amazing to hear. For one thing, apparently he was very, very premature and nobody expected him to live. And at the same time, being premature, he was actually born in the United States instead of the Bahamas, where his family was from. And after he survived that ordeal, his father had even bought a shoebox for the funeral. And I suppose had gone around telling everybody what they would do with respect to the funeral. But he still survived. The next hurdle is that he lived in the Bahamas with his family, and he didn't even live in one of the main islands. He lived in let's say, a very rural island with his family, and they did subsistence farming of tomatoes and other produce, I imagine. But at some point, the export market of the US, where they sold their tomatoes, it was closed to them. I guess the farmers or whoever in Florida, where they sold the tomatoes, were able to get policies changed so that they no longer were able to export their tomatoes to Florida. And as a result, his family had to move from the island where they lived in order to find work on one of the bigger islands. And it was just amazing to hear him mention how he saw a car for the first time. I don't know how old he was at the time, but he was asking his mother what it was. And it was just so cool that he hadn't even grown up seeing cars. And his first experience with one was really, really interesting. Then his first experience going to a movie theater. He didn't even know what he was going to see. But, he didn't want people to know, so he didn't let on. And the whole process of going into the theater and the curtain opening up in the darkness and suddenly seeing the light on the background and people appearing. Just this whole description of it was just like, wow. And then, he left school. He didn't go to school very often. And then at some point, he stopped going to school altogether in order to help his family to get by, in order to provide money to his family. And unfortunately, with him talking about his past, it was revealed how poorly his education was. When he was talking about being in New York and having no aspiration or thought to becoming an actor. But he was, I believe, reading the newspaper in order to find a dishwashing job, because that's what he wanted to be and to do. And he couldn't find a dishwashing job. But as chance happened to be, he saw a job or a listing for actors. And he thought, well, maybe he could do that. So he went to the audition for the actors, and he was given the part, the text to read, and he says, that he was so awful in reading the part that the guy who he was reading with, who was in the audition, I think grabbed him by his neck and the seat of his pants and complained and berated him that he was so ridiculous and so, uneducated. Why didn't he just go and find a dishwashing job somewhere? And threw him out of the audition. And as it turns out, that was the reason why he wanted to become an actor. Because he thought to himself, how does this guy know that I am a dishwasher? How did he know to suggest that to him? So he was so upset with the guy that he figured he would try to become an actor just to stick it to the guy in his head. So I think at some point he went to a location, a place where they were teaching people to become actors, and he told them that he would be the janitor for the place if they would let him take classes to become an actor. And I thought, wow, that's the main reason why he decided he wanted to become an actor. So apparently, when he went back, because he went the first time and someone told him that they would talk to the people, and he went again, he had to go again. And when he met the same lady, I think, it was obvious that she hadn't asked anybody, as she thought she told him she would have. So when she did ask, they said yes, and they let him be the janitor for the place, and in order to take the acting classes. Now, once he started taking the acting classes, he befriended the other people who were there taking acting classes, and his friendship with them was such a good one that at the end of the period where they were learning to be actors, I guess there were certain opportunities to be had, but he wasn't good enough to be chosen to perform either at the place or to be recommended for any other acting jobs. So his friends went on his behalf to ask for him to continue in, I guess, an extended process in order to be an actor. And from that point, while he was, I think he was an understudy for another actor, and he was saying that the person who had him as an understudy, they had no intention of ever giving him an opportunity to act. But as it turns out, the actor who he was the understudy for was Harry Belafonte. Not that it was that special that it was Harry Belafonte, but maybe it's to give you an idea of, yeah, they came from the same place. But again, a series of unpredictable events. As it happened, on the opening night of the play, Harry Belafonte could not come because he had to help his father to, I'm not sure if it was stack coal or basically to help with some janitorial work at his father's job. So he couldn't come on the opening night. So they had no choice but to let Sidney Poitier act in place of him. And the funniest thing is, he says that when he got out on the stage, the first thing that happened was he forgot his lines. So, not completely. Apparently, let's say, according to his estimation, if he was supposed to say his first line, he said his eighth line. And for whatever reason, that sparked the next step. And the idea is that when he came out on the stage and was saying the wrong lines, the other actor had to think fast and try to come up with some response to make sense and get them back to the first line. So the crowd thought that that was part of the play, and they were very amused by his, the whole thing that happened, the whole interplay. And he thought to himself after the play that, you know what, he had messed up so much that was it. He had tried to become an actor and it didn't work out after all of these missteps. But he opened a paper, and at this point I guess he was able to read a lot better, and he saw that he'd been given some really good reviews. The play didn't receive good reviews, I don't think, but he had gotten good reviews himself. And that reinvigorated his desire to try again. And it turned out that someone who had come to see the play, I don't know if Harry Belafonte had continued taken his place again in that role. Probably he did. But someone had come to the play and had seen him in it, fumbling, I presume, and having said the wrong line by accident, and asked for him if he wanted to be in another play. And based on that role in the one play, then he got another role, and so on. And I was like, wow. So here you are, you were a premature baby, you couldn't read, you were looking for a dishwashing job, and you saw this, actor's role. You tried it. You were so bad and the people treated you so poorly that you got upset that they did, and that you wanted to get back at them by trying to become an actor. You tried to be a janitor for them. You had the, interest to go back and check and become the janitor. That didn't work out, but your friends were able to try to get you small roles in the productions. You fumbled the production. Well, number one, Harry Belafonte missed, so you had the opportunity to go on stage. You fumbled that production, the lines, which people thought was funny. So you got a good review, even though the play didn't get a good review. So that's why you continued acting. And because of your fumble, you got the opportunity to act in another play. And you continued from there. And I was like, wow, that is just so unlikely. I would never have thought of that. And anyway, he went back, I guess a little bit, to explain that he was at a dishwashing job at a particular restaurant, let's say. And he was sitting down with the paper. And someone came up to him. I think a Jewish person came up to him and asked him what's new in the papers. So he honestly explained to the person that, hey, he wouldn't be able to say because he couldn't read that well. that person that he was honest to actually decided to help him and explain to him what punctuation marks were, what a comma was, uh, different parts of speech, I presume, and helped him to be able to read better. And from being able to read better, he, I guess, decided to make sure and read as many books as he could possibly find. And it might seem like it's a small thing, but how is he supposed to be able to get an education while he was a dishwasher? It's not as if they have, continuing learning classes now. And as a matter of fact, I just recently read about someone who, in America, a person who actually became a teacher, who got to the point where they were even a retired teacher, and they didn't know how to read. And they'd spent their entire life jumping through, the stories that this person told. I think he got a scholarship, as a matter of fact, to university. And this person got to the point where he stole the actual locker that had the test papers in them and put the locker in let's say a business building, put on a shirt and a tie with his friends, got a locksmith to open the file cabinet so that he would be able to get the test papers in order to cheat in university, I think it was, in order to avoid people knowing that he could not read. There was nobody that person could trust for, I want to say, 60 something years to tell, and who he didn't feel that anybody could teach him how to read. And I think he was the prom king and all sorts of stuff. And it was just crazy. And that's to tell you what could have happened if, Sidney Poitier had decided that he didn't want to be honest with this person about how well he could read, or if the person wasn't patient with him and took the time, or if he had lost his job at that particular location, so the person didn't have the time to, or he didn't have the opportunity to sit with the person, or if the job was in such a way that they didn't sit down after the job and have that opportunity for him to learn. It's just amazing that he went through all of those different near miss opportunities and was able to become, the person that he is. And then still to get to the point where he was in a movie role where he could win Best Oscar. And to hear him tell it, there's the movie that he was in, I think that I've seen it, but I don't remember the name of it and I don't remember the plot. But there is a scene in the movie, I think, where as a black person, he was in a situation where he was struck by a white person, and the original plot of the movie or the screenplay, he just takes it. And he said that when he read it, there was no way that he was going to play a role where he didn't strike the man back, the white person that hit him. And he said that he spoke to the people who wanted him to be in the movie, and he said, listen, this has to be written into the contract that in the role, if I'm playing it, my character strikes back, hits the guy back. And he said that in the end, it wasn't written into the contract because he trusted the guy and he knew the guy was honest. And that part, that scene in the movie, made the movie what it was, because it was so out of character for that to happen, for that to actually occur, where a black man strikes the white person back. And for anyone who was, I would say, born and raised in the USA as a black person, that would never have been something that they would have wanted to do. That would not have been what their response was. I remember that Jamie Foxx, I don't know what his real name is, but he was saying that when he was a kid, that he had gone to get gasoline in Texas, and the person that he met there told him, "Hey, you little so-and-so, blah, blah, blah." And he responded to the person by saying, "Hey, man, I'm just a kid." And when he went back at home and told his grandfather came back to the gasoline place and said, "Hey," basically his grandfather tried to make sure that he didn't end up at the end of a rope hanging from a tree, because that's the reality. And Sidney Poitier was saying that since he had grown up in the Bahamas, that was not his reality. So, as a matter of fact, the KKK had come looking for him because that was not his reality, and his reaction to delivering a package for someone. When the person opened the door and they saw him, they told him very harshly, "Get around the back." And they slammed the door in his face when he was a kid. And he just placed the package on the front porch and left. He didn't go around to the back. And so the KKK came looking for him. And, there are even more near misses that happened in his life. But the ones that I recounted are, will have to suffice for now. Anyway, guys, you can wish me lucks. You can like or unlike, comment, subscribe, and or share. Peace.